Alrighty, this will be a super quick rundown on basic Rust and syntax. This is the same file we just created in the last video, and I added a bunch of functions to look at. So we'll look at this say hi function, which is just gonna create a variable, and then we'll put it into this print statement. And the exclamation mark means that this is a macro, but we'll not worry too much about that. It just means that if we have a variable, we can pass that into this. It's like string formatting. So we'll just run that. I'll save, and then I'll do cargo run to run that. Yep. Hello, Bob. There we go. We could also, so this variable by default can't be changed, but we can add mute to make it mutable. As a quick side note. Okay. Moving on. We have say name wrong, and this won't work, but we'll look at why. So we'll clear the terminal and then run. No. I'll make this bigger. Okay. Source is going to give us some really good errors. So the first one, if this is a self type, we're not dealing with a self type. We're trying. So the issue is we have this name. Rust will actually point to where within a single line the issue appears to be, not just what line. And it's pretty good about actually pointing to the right spot, which is great. So it's suggesting we might want a self type, which isn't really what we want. We're trying to pass in this parameter here. And it's a little confused about what name actually is. So we don't need to use self. The next help suggestion is going to say if this is a parameter, which it is, we are trying to pass in a parameter name. And it's saying we need to give it a type. So we have name, colon, and then the name of the type we're dealing with. So that's probably what we want to do. So we will say, let's get rid of say name wrong. Actually, I should have commented all this out earlier. There we go. Okay. So we just did say name wrong. We'll look at say name the proper way, which is to add actually I'm going to say, let's just say this is of type str. Okay. And then we'll run that. So I'm going to clear out the terminal again. And we're going to get a new error. And it's just saying, if we go to the top, that we have a string type. Well, we have it's saying we expected str, but we found was a reference to a string. So up here we pass in a string, or we were expecting a string, but we got a reference to a string. And so what Rust is going to tell us to do, even if we don't even if I were to not totally understand what's happening, which is somewhat the case, Rust will just say, hey, look, you can add this reference. So that makes it so we're actually getting a reference to a string and not the actual string itself. So you have a pointer in memory to that string instead of because Rust will freak out if you have multiple functions all trying to access the same spot in memory. Because it doesn't want you to accidentally have a concurrency issue or a race condition, and Rust doesn't have a garbage collector like Java to start cleaning up all your memory so you don't have memory errors. So Rust is saying, hey, you need to borrow this string from where it originally was, which is a little weird because we only have one copy of the string and it's not an object, but Rust still wants us to borrow it. And it's going to say, hey, use this borrow types. That way, you don't have to worry about the size of the string and whatnot. I guess, yeah, worry about the size of the string, but also it would be upset about having multiple references to the same spot in memory, I believe. So regardless of what is causing the issue, we'll just add this @ symbol like Rust is telling us to. All clear, run, and now it works. So if we just kind of do what Rust tells us, that'll usually fix most issues. Another thing I'll point out there, if we get that error again, we can always run this command that it tells us will give us more information. And there we go. We have more file where we just keep hitting enter to look through examples of what possibly went wrong and how to fix it. Okay. And there's more information about that @ symbol at that link. Moving on to the for loop. I'll save and then we'll run. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a for loop. We'll just say from I, or it's like in Python, for I in some range, but instead of having a range function, we just say 0 to 10, and the two little dots is just going to give us all the numbers from 0 to 10, like in an array, and then we'll print and we'll put I into here, format it, and it's pretty straightforward, I hope, not too surprising. There we go, 0 to 9, because we're going from 0 to 10, inclusive, exclusive. So yeah, it's not like real profound right there. And then yeah, a while loop that does pretty much the exact same thing. We have a while it's less than 10, increment. Here we actually do have to use mute because we're changing a, so we want that to be a mutable variable. So we'll just check that out. It compiles and bam, there we go. Yeah, well, a is less than 10, increase a. So we actually have, we're increasing it before we print it. So instead of going from 0 to 9, we went from 1 to 10 because we moved it up by 1 there. But we could have incremented it after that, and that one then would be from 0 to 10 actually. And then the if-else statement. So yeah, clearly I've just made a bunch of functions here. Maybe I should have said this at the beginning. I made a bunch of functions just to show how each thing works. But yeah, so okay, so we have an if-else function. So we have let a equal 1 and b equals 0, and then just if condition, say it, if condition, or else if condition, print the other thing, and then finally a last condition if they're the same. I'll save, cargo run. Oh no. Oh, it's giving me warnings. Looks like we don't actually need the parentheses. I guess I forgot about that. Huh. Well, it's working even though it's got a warning. But I'll do what Rust tells me to do. I see. So putting parentheses around that made it its own like thing, like own tuple, I guess, which still returns the truth value of that, but maybe it's not necessary, which I think is what Rust is trying to tell me here. Boom. Okay, we got rid of the warning. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, I don't think I'm remotely qualified to be talking about how Rust works, but there is some basic stuff for myself and anybody else wanting to just get a quick reference onto the basic like syntax of simple Rust stuff. Cool.